Most people talk about leadership like it's theory. I've lived it in the mud, the chaos, and the moments nobody writes about. This show is the truth, raw, unfiltered, and built for leaders who actually give a damn. If you're ready to grow, ready to own your own story, and ready to lead from the front, you're in the right place. Speak up, show up, lead. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Speak Up, Show Up, Lead Leadership Live Edition. And I'm here, I'm JJ Hardy, your host, with my co-host here, Chris Pinkowski. And how are you doing today, Chris?
Good morning, JJ. I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Oh, man. You know, it's been a very great and interesting week, and it sounds like yours was even more interesting.
Yeah, it's not every week that your flight gets canceled and you have to sleep in the Chicago airport. But I'll check that one off the bucket list, right?
Yeah, I mean, you get to reduce yourself to hobo status every once in a while, don't you?
Yes.
Dang it. Okay. But
and those chairs are not comfortable, man.
Oh, they are not. I remember when I was a kid, I slept in the I had to sleep in the what was that? Minneapolis airport.
Okay.
And it was because we had tornadoes. I mean, you could see them out the window.
Oh, wow.
It was awesome. But, you know, you got to experience it at least once in your life, I guess.
That's right.
But so today we're having a cool conversation. The title is Courage to Confront. Execution Requires Hard Conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And though this is going to be about execution and it's going to be about hard conversations, it's going to be about the things that come up when you're doing something new that, you know, might require, you know, some difficult conversations. So do you want to get us kicked off? What's that mean to you, Chris?
Yeah. What that means to me is that, you know, the difficult conversations are ones that too many people shy away from. And it's disappointing because when you don't tackle those difficult conversations, when you don't have them, then you're leaving potential learning opportunities on the table. You're absolutely taking away from someone else's ability to grow and learn from people need to hear certain things. I guess that's the bottom line, right? That's what I'm trying to say. And if you're holding back, then do you really care about that person as someone that you're leading? Because I would argue that having those difficult conversations actually shows that you want someone else to succeed. When you're helping them to break something down, to do something the right way, you know, it's not just about do it my way. It's about, hey, this is what we agreed on, and I'm trying to help you to do that. So they're not always like that. I mean, not all difficult conversations are to help somebody, but when you shy away from one type, you would generally shy away from all of them. And it's something I recommend getting in the habit of.
Yeah, I agree. And when it comes to execution, you know, there are certain things, or well, not execution, but let's use reinvention as an example, because I think that's kind of where this conversation this year has taken us to the point where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing something new and you're reinventing yourself and you're doing stuff that you wouldn't normally do to achieve a new outcome, then the difficult conversations could be with your spouse. They could be with your employer when you know you're going to leave and go and do something different. That's never an easy one. My gosh, that's not an easy one. I remember when I had to have that conversation when I left my last job because I was going to go start a business. Though my employer he was encouraging me to go out and do what I got to do because, you know, he felt like it was the right thing. When it was actually time to go and you have to tell somebody that you're putting in those 2 weeks, that's a really difficult one because you know that they're going to have to hire somebody else. You know, they're going to have to train somebody else. And even though it's just a business, and the business is going to keep on going after you leave, man, you're going to be putting somebody through hardship because they have to go outside of what they normally do and executing the day-to-day tasks to bring on somebody new and train them on a job. So,
Yep.
I mean, that's not an easy one, but it requires you to think about the bigger picture and not think about the discomfort that comes along with it. It's doing what you got to do regardless.
Yeah. And you know what? Along those lines, a lot of times when leaders are trying to execute and they're not having those difficult conversations with people that are holding that execution back, then they will just go ahead and try to solve those issues themselves. They'll try to take more on, and in reality, what they're doing is they're putting more stress and burden on themselves, and they're letting that other person off the hook. So, in the case of, leaving a job, yeah, I may feel bad that you need to backfill this position that I'm leaving, but at the same time, I'm looking at my future and where I'm going, right? If I'm starting a new business, I'm starting another job, like that's going to benefit me. So I don't know how bad I feel about a past employer having to backfill a role that I left because there was a reason that I left in the first place, right?
Sure.
So,
Sure.
and same goes with the difficult conversations with people that you lead. And if this is part of your reinvention is to be more comfortable having those conversations, then you've got to think about what are the downsides of not having them,
Oh yeah.
right? So you're holding yourself, you're putting more on your plate because you're not having it. Now, every time that person continues to do whatever they're doing, you're just getting irritated at them. You're getting pissed off at yourself because you're taking their slack, but you're being a chicken by not having that conversation, right? So what's the downsides of not having it are probably more or maybe not more, but they're equal to the upsides of having it.
Yeah.
Got to have those tough conversations. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, well, there is a cost. There is a cost. I mean, in the case that I just mentioned, if you don't have that conversation with an employer that you're trying to leave and go on and do better things, then you're stuck doing that same job for even longer.
Right.
If you're at work and you're having and you have maybe you have to counsel somebody on something that they haven't been doing right, or if you had, or there are a number of things that may have to happen. If you're not willing to help them with their professional growth by having that difficult conversation, you're actually hurting them and you're hurting yourself,
Yeah.
because it's a growth experience for them to learn how to do something better, or to find out that they're not quite meeting the mark. But it's also a growth thing for you if it makes you feel a little bit icky inside to go in there and know that you're going to potentially hurt somebody's feelings or make them feel whatever kind of a way, or whatever the case may be. But when you're able to do it, and because it has to be done, then you're actually building another muscle within yourself to go out there, and it's another form of discipline is really what it is.
Yeah. And depending on what the difficult conversation is, right? If it's something that has to do with another person's development or how they're contributing to the team, it's all about how it comes across from you and how you frame the conversation, right? If you're trying to get someone to grow, you really have to be very overt about the fact of like, you know what, JJ, I want the best for you. And the only way that I know how to do that is for me to have this direct conversation and set these very clear expectations and goals of where we need to be. And then for me to help you get there.
Yep.
So, right, this is from a place of caring. I mean, there are other times that if someone is just a complete screw up and you need to reprimand them, that's not necessarily caring, right? That's more of like, hey, you're not meeting the standards. You've made this same mistake 3 times. You need to get your head out of your ass. And I guess the caring part of that is if you keep this up, you're not going to have a job. And you say it without saying that, right?
Well, but there's a bigger picture there too. I mean, so that there's still a cost of not having that conversation because likely they're not the only person on your team. So
Yeah.
if you when somebody has been not performing well and you have to have that final conversation with them, well, likely they know it's coming for one. If you're doing your job right, they know it's coming for one. But two, that's also affecting the rest of the team in that, if they're not performing well, maybe other people have to pick up the slack, or maybe they're a toxic employee and it's affecting the morale of the rest of the team or whatever the case may be. And so, there is a caring part to that, and that, you got to do the right thing for everybody, not just for one. And that's really one of the toughest parts of leadership is it's not even the idea of having a difficult conversation. It's making the right decisions for the good of everybody, not just for the good of one or for what makes you feel most comfortable.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and comfort, gosh, I am becoming more and more and more, this is going to sound stupid now that I have it in my mind, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm getting more comfortable with the idea of being uncomfortable as I get older. As a matter of fact, I almost tend to think that sometimes I don't even know if I care. Yeah, it's got to be done. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to put all of the other noise that surrounds that thing over here. I'm just going to do what I got to do because I know it's got to get done.
Right.
And I think you got to develop that. That may sound really silly and maybe even a little bit careless to put it that way. But at the end of the day, we tend to, when it comes to doing something difficult, conversationally or otherwise, we tend to talk ourselves out of it, especially when we're young and we haven't had to do it a whole bunch. That new thing, that hard conversation, that difficult thing that we have to do, we create a lot of noise. And that noise will tell us, oh, you're going to hurt their feelings. Oh, it's going to make them really angry and you're going to end up having to calm them down. Oh, it's going to cause a fight with everybody on the work floor. Oh, blah, 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 this, that. And it could be all kinds of things. And I have met so many people, and actually I was one of these people. Chris, you probably were too when you were younger, where sometimes you're like, oh man, maybe this will just work itself out. But it never does. And so what you learn over time when you start doing these things more often, difficult conversations, that's what we're talking about today. But that is probably one of the more prominent things that I hear even in my coaching business these days. And Chris, you probably did too. Leaving things unsaid is probably one of the biggest things that people have to work on. They don't understand why they have to. They think if they don't start anything, there won't be anything. Well, that's not how that works. And you got to do what's necessary, whether it feels good or not.
So this is where you and I bring different perspectives.
Okay.
Because I, as I've gotten older, have had to kind of learn to dial it back, because I was never the person who left things unsaid.
Okay.
And in fact, I was the person that would be like straight in your face. I don't care if I was like 10 years old. I was like, no, this is what's going on. And I don't know why you're an idiot, or, when I was young and stupid, I didn't have any polish. So I just said what was on my mind, but I was never one to hold back. And I was also never one to a confrontation never bothered me. And it was
okay.
Oh, okay. If this needs to be done and we need to have this conversation, zero filter, full send, and I'm just going for it. So, and that has bitten me from a career standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, because I've come across as just being like too rough or too did that guy just really just say that in that way? Yes, I did. And in hindsight, it was wrong. It was stupid. Um, I've got the whole top of my left arm is covered in a raging bull to remind me that I can't be a bull in a china shop all the time. Like, yes, that's my spirit animal, and I love it, and I use it when I need to, but
Well,
that is not the only approach to things.
well, that's good though, because let's dive into that for a second. Because when it comes to having a difficult conversation, you can also be too much. And I went through that stage too. I came from a very abusive environment as a young person. And so when I had to start coming up with my own voice, I had it. Everyone has it, but I had to be taught how to bring it out. So you never know what kind of person you're going to be working with. Let's take this away from reinvention and execution and stuff like that, and turn this into a leadership thing. You never know what somebody's background is. So say
Right.
you're a leader in an organization, and somebody is not doing the things that they need to do, and you just can't figure out why, because when they were doing execution stuff on their own, when they were not when they didn't have employees under them, they were doing great. They were executing well. Well, their background could have been the same as I grew up with, and they were probably just a little bit too shy to say the things that need to be said, and they could have had a lot of internal noise in it. From a psychological standpoint, that's actually probably their parents back in their mind, telling them that they're not good enough, or why are they the ones that are willing to have that conversation, or why do they deserve to have that conversation with that person who may be better or whatever than they are. It's just all kinds of noise can be going on in their head. But
Mhm.
for somebody that may have come from a more supportive construction style background, like what you grew up with, Chris, well, that's a little bit different, because you knew that things had to be done. But the key is, when you're young and dumb, because we all end up there at one point, before we end up developing, you have to learn how to dial that back, because you don't have a polished employee when you hit them with a damn hammer. So you got to figure out how to tone yourself down, and have a conversation for them, not for you, which is actually why you lay the hammer down like that. And
Right.
and so it's good to bring that perspective, because some people do have to find their voice. And then some people have their voice, and you got to teach them how to not completely shut up, but my goodness, that's got to be different.
Yeah.
So that's good. And so some people are willing to have those conversations, but some people do have a lot of that background noise that you gotta teach them how to put those things to the side. And that's that. And motivation might actually be a problem for them. So maybe they have to build that discipline muscle to go out there and do those right things first, rather than, you know, become motivated by the cost of not having a conversation, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess getting back to, this series of execution on being the leader that you want to be, right? We're keeping that theme that we start off the year,
Yep.
transforming yourself into the leader that you want to be. Now it's about the execution. Today's topic is really about difficult conversations,
Yep.
right? And what that means. Um, so how do you, if you're a leader and one of the things that you want to be better at is having these kind of conversations, how do you as a coach help those people to do that? And I've got my perspectives as well, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, first you got to figure out where they're coming from, right? I mean, it just like we just got done talking about the differences between young you and young me.
Mhm.
Every personality is different, so every approach that you take is going to depend on what that person needs. And so when it comes time to talking to somebody about how they can improve their ability to have those difficult conversations, you got to figure out why they're not doing it. And you can tell when somebody's not confident, and you can tell when somebody is overconfident.
Mhm.
And they're if they're not having it, usually the conversation is going to be based off questions that you ask them to kind of get to the root cause. I mean, my goodness, when personal and professional development is all about root cause analysis. Unfortunately, sometimes you got to do that with yourself, but in this case, you got to do it with other people, and finding out why somebody is not doing something can be so simple as just asking them why. And if
Yeah.
they don't answer immediately, you ask them more questions. I mean, a few that come to the top of my head would be, you know, why aren't you having this conversation? And if they give you a couple things, well, why are you uncomfortable? Why is it that you feel like you're not good enough to have this conversation? So on and so forth. And you get to the root cause. Obviously, young Chris is not having a difficult time. That's a different conversation. So we, that might actually be a little bit more a disciplinary style professional development conversation. So,
Yeah.
but that's kind of where I come from as a coach, and then you develop a plan together on how to move them forward into having those conversations. I actually, in the past, have had a lot of success, not as a coach like what I am now, but when I was actually working in a business or in the military, I would like to go with them and have that conversation with them, and just first of all see how they handle it. But if they don't actually spit it out, I will.
Right.
When you know that they're about ready to just walk away and their face is getting red, and you know that they're not going to say anything, and they're already starting to say things that indicate that they're going to end that conversation, then you jump in and you start it off. Oh, by the way, Joe Snuffy over here actually did have something to say to you, so he's going to go ahead and say that now, or she's going to go ahead and say that now, and then kind of doing that a little bit more over time, but dialing it back and letting them take the lead, because they're going to get more comfortable with it as they go forward. But that's
Yeah.
just, I believe in a left seat, right seat sort of a thing. That's always an approach if it's really that severe.
And what I really like about that approach too is that a lot of times it's that first step of the difficult conversation that the person has the most trouble with. So when you're able to put them in the hot seat, for lack of a better word, like, yeah, hey, you know what? JJ did have something else that he wanted to mention to you. And now you're on the spot. Now you got to say it. Once the dam breaks, now the conversation can go. But it's all about getting those first couple words out of, hey, I need to talk to you about X.
Yeah.
And then when you put people on the spot like that, that's a great teaching tool, because now they look at it and they're like, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. The world didn't end, yada, yada, yada. All the things that were in my head didn't come true because I had this difficult conversation.
Well, and the employees know that the boss has the back of the immediate manager, and that's not always something that happens in an organization.
Right.
So and when somebody is willing to put that level of effort into helping somebody through something, then what else are they willing to do? I mean, it just shows that there's a different level of care in every situation, not just that one, because I'm a firm believer that you do one thing like you do everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, our approach to that isn't that different. Um, because I would be asking the same things like, hey, what's holding you back from having this tough conversation? What do you think is the worst case scenario of having this difficult conversation with somebody?
Yep.
And then just kind of disproving what the worst case is. Like, this guy is not going to fall. They're not going to quit their job. You go down the list of all the things that people say to themselves that prevent these difficult conversations from happening. And yeah, and then ultimately it's just like, all right, let's go together. and I'll be there to help you. I'll be your support. And if you need that like final push, I will do that too.
Well, and I like when we first started this conversation, since we're getting close to the end, I'm going to go ahead and give a couple tools that
Mhm.
relate to how you build this. So this is nothing more than discipline, whether it's emotional discipline or physical discipline. It doesn't matter. This relates to both of those things. So I encourage everybody in the audience actually to first of all, you build discipline by doing the slightly more difficult thing all the time. If you have the choice to park right up front at the grocery store or park a little bit farther back and walk into the grocery store, do it. If you have the choice to get up and walk around the floor and ask everybody about their day, and or you could sit in the office and work on your reports because those guys have to be done anyway. you know Take a little bit of time. You may be stressed on getting your reports done in a shorter time frame, but you would also build relationships at your work and get used to people, so those difficult conversations aren't so bad. But on the other side of that, when stress hits, you react differently. So I highly recommend that you study EQ, emotional intelligence, because it'll help you understand the why behind a lot of these reactions that you have. So when it's
Mhm.
time for you to take action on something, whether it's a difficult conversation or otherwise, you'll start. If you can run it through the four pillars of emotional intelligence, it'll help you understand a lot more about why you're not doing it. And maybe it'll even be like, oh man, this is just self-talk. I need to go ahead and do this. It may actually help things become more clear, and it may make sense as to why you should do it. And you'll just kind of wipe out the noise and go make it happen.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Um, yeah, just like Nike says, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah,
Just
you know
do it.
what? If you get out of your head and you just go, that's how people get in shape. They get out of their head and they just go out, they just start going to the gym, or they walk that mile, or they do whatever it is that they got to do, and they start dropping the weight, they start feeling better, they start looking better. But it works the same way when you're doing this professional development stuff. If you want to get better at something, figure out what it takes and just do it.
Yep.
That's Oh my gosh, that is undercomplicating it, isn't it? But anyway, all that said is all that to say, just make sure that you're being intentional about this stuff, because if you can uh, do something every day to help you understand yourself better, you're going to be a better leader for yourself, and you're going to be a better leader for others. That's really what it boils down to.
That's right. Couldn't have said it better myself. Get out there, have those conversations. The world will not end as a result of them.
No.
You'll be better off for having them, and so will your people.
Yep. Yep. They will. So do you have anything else to close this out today, Chris?
Nope.
No, you
No.
don't. We might actually end on time today. Um, well, I do have one thing to say. First of all, I'll do a mini plug here. Speak Up, Show Up, Lead. This is my book.
Mhm.
However, this last week, something else happened. I released another one. It's called Resilience is Built, Not Born, and it's a guide on how to become more resilient, and it's got some colorful language in there. I had a lot of fun writing that book, so I highly recommend you check it out. Resilience is Built, Not Born. I don't even have my proof yet; it's still in the mail. Otherwise, I'd hold it up here and show it to you. But oh gosh, I do
What's this
have
book number 3? Is this number 3 for you?
no, Chris. This has been a bit of a bit of an addiction. So it's not just book. It's so my two primary ones are Speak Up, Show Up, Lead, and Resilience is Built, Not Born. But I also have a startup book that I wrote. That's there. I have why organizations should develop their leaders. It's a pocket guide that I hand out to organizations. It's a freebie, but it's also for sale on Amazon. And then I have my journey from being
Yeah.
a coach to entrepreneur.
Mhm.
It's called Warrior Leadership. That one's out there for sale as well. So I guess that means I have 5 of them out there.
Shazam. All
Good
right.
Lord. This book writing thing is turning into a bit of an addiction.
There you go.
But it's good. I mean, it gets everything out there, and it keeps me sharp, which
That's right.
it's just part of my professional development. I never, ever, ever would have wanted to write anything ever if you would have talked to me about 10 years ago. But when you have nothing better to do, well, I do have plenty of better things to do. But when you start getting used to journaling and writing things down, you're like, well, actually, this could really benefit somebody else. And then you kind of go down a rabbit hole and you just start typing it all together and putting it, and before you know it, you have 20, 30, 40, 50 pages, and you're like, oh my gosh, somebody might actually want to read this. And then you finish it off. Well, for me, I give it to my wife, and then it looks like somebody committed murder because she has red marks all over it. But then I fix it and I publish it, and it's a lot of fun. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so I guess that's book number 5. I didn't even think about that. I just kind of keep on going. But the Resilience is Built, Not Born. That one is available. I double checked before we got on the call today, and it is on Amazon. Feel free to go check them out. If you type in JJ Hardy, all of my books will pop up. You might have to scroll a little bit because that baseball player shows up too. But yeah, go check them out. But as far as the live stream is concerned, I appreciate everybody following us on this journey. I see we've had quite a few people popping up, especially on LinkedIn here. I do encourage all of you during these live streams that I encourage you to, well, I guess speak up, because we want to have a conversation with you. It's not just a conversation between me and Chris, though, Chris, I enjoy talking to you. This is supposed to be an interactive conversation with the audience as well. And we appreciate you all following us on this journey. But we would like your feedback while we're talking about this stuff. So do that. But otherwise, don't forget, if you're on YouTube, to subscribe. Everywhere else you see it, don't forget to like and share and comment below. Let us know what you want us to talk about. It's a leadership development based conversation every other Saturday. So we want to talk about what you want to talk about. And that's really all I have to say. We'll be back again here in a couple weeks for another leadership conversation. And I hope you all join us. Yep.
See you all in a couple weeks. And don't forget to chime in.
Yeah, don't forget to put your comments below while we're talking, and we'll interact with you.
That's right.
All right, I'll have a good day.
Have an awesome day.